Hi, welcome back to Random Reading Pathways. I'm Matt, and I am here with another quick book haul. I know I keep saying I'm not going to have any more of these for a little bit, but the problem is I keep forgetting that it's fall and that it's library book sale season right now, and it just seems like every time I check the calendar, I find another library book sale going on in the area, and in my experience with these, they're just too good to pass up in terms of usually being able to find some pretty good titles there for the cheapest prices that you could possibly find. So I did decide to check out another one. And, you know, the real reason I wanted to post this, yet another book haul here, is really to further demonstrate what Random Reading Pathways means. And I know I mention it quite frequently, but in practice, you know, it's really what motivates and really what determines how I go about selecting books to read, more so than like recommendations or best of lists or things like that. I really just stick to this personal little pathway methodology that I've sort of settled on. And these quick 5 books today that I chose, I think demonstrate that in a way that I'll try to show here, to further kind of explain, you know, what the genesis of this channel is. So without further ado, let me just go through them quick. First, I found John Irving, A Prayer for Owen, Meanie. I haven't read this. I've read one John Irving, which was The Water Method Man. In my BookTube newbie video, I showed my copy of The Water Method Man, and when I saw this today, I remembered that that book has a blurb on the cover saying, you know, John Irving is the author of A Prayer for Owen, Meanie. So I saw a couple John Irving books at the sale today, but I figured it would be good to have another one on the shelf for if I want to read Irving again. And that's kind of how my mind works, you know, in choosing between the different Irving books there. I remembered the blurb from the one I have, and it was this book that was being discussed, so I went ahead and grabbed it. I've heard about this book. I know it's, you know, kind of in his canon of well-received books. It says, Owen Meanie, the only child of a New Hampshire granite quarrier, believes he is God's instrument. He is. This is John Irving's most comic novel, yet Owen Meanie is Mr. Irving's most heartbreaking character. So you get some tragedy, you get some comedy, which is what I have experienced with John Irving thus far in the one book I've read. So yeah, the pathway kind of struck me to go ahead and grab this one. So I got that today. Next up, this would probably fit a little bit better in the last video I posted where I was talking about bookshelf staples, because this is another staple, another kind of classic. This is Joseph Conrad, A Heart of Darkness. So I have seen this in just about every bookstore or book sale that I've been to. The reason I went ahead and grabbed it this time is I haven't seen this version really. This is the Modern Library 100 Best Novels of the 20th Century version of this, and I noticed that it does have Heart of Darkness in the middle from Conrad. It also has selections from the Congo Diary, which I believe it appears to be Joseph Conrad's personal diaries regarding the area. And it also has some introductory material here, some commentary by numerous other authors on Joseph Conrad and on this work specifically. Just a list here, you have H.L. Mencken, E.M. Forster, Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, Bertrand Russell, Lionel Trilling, Chinua Achebe, and Philip Gortvich. So a nice list of authors there who comment on this. Chinua Achebe definitely jumped out to me because, as I detailed in a recent video, I just finished reading Things Fall Apart by him not long ago and enjoyed that title. So I'm very interested to hear what he has to say about Conrad's Heart of Darkness. I did start reading this some time ago. This is another one of those books I picked up one day and didn't end up finishing it, didn't get through it at the time, but it's actually only 100 pages, I believe, so I hopefully will have less trouble this time finishing it off. It ties into the Random Reading Pathway because I just read Chinua Achebe. I've also read a couple African-centric novels this year that have been brought to me sort of by this pathway I'm following. So this seems like another one to continue with that study. Also, this book famously takes place on a fictional river in Africa, which the notes on the back explain is essentially the Congo River, which is exactly the same thing. And this is one of those random reading connections that I always seem to stumble across, and it's what keeps the book hauls going here, against my will, kind of. It's exactly the same thing that was the case for V.S. Nepal's A Bend in the River. And I talked about that book in a recent video, which I also read this year. That was a random number generator search completely in the Philly Book Trader, that brought me to that book, which is also set on a fictional African river, which, you know, is the Congo River. So I didn't think of it at the time, but there's probably no more famous book than Heart of Darkness that takes place on the fictionalized version of the Congo River. So two of those that seem to, you know, go hand in hand with each other, plus having just also randomly read Chinua Achebe, and he comments on this book, it all came together. This needed to be grabbed for me today. Keeping going, and speaking of Philly Book Trader hauls from my recent video on that topic, when I went to the book sale today, I didn't intend to find this author. I wasn't looking for her like I was in my last video that I talked about. But nevertheless, there was one book there from Connie Willis again. So that seems to be my experience lately, is Connie Willis is starting to pop up again for me in some book sales I've gone to, in some bookstores. I posted a video recently talking about Passage by Connie Willis, which is the only book by her I've read to this point, which I absolutely loved, which prompted me to go ahead and then pick up Lincoln's Dreams from her a couple weeks ago from the Philly Book Trader, which is now on the TBR. And then today I saw this book, Impossible Things, in a really nice hardcover, great quality version here. And this actually is a collection of stories. So this is 11 stories from Connie Willis, including the award-winning stories Even the Queen, At the Rialto, and The Last of the Winnebagos. So yeah, hadn't seen this before, wasn't familiar, but it was another one of those coincidences, random reading pathway connections that I always seem to be on the lookout for. There was one Connie Willis book in the entire book sale, and it was in great shape. And I've been on a little Connie Willis kick of grabbing some of these lately, so went ahead and got that one. Two more here. So in my last video I just posted with yet another book haul, I showed the Ender's Quartet box set that I found for 50 cents a book by Orson Scott Card. I also showed Ender's Shadow, which I acquired recently and I read earlier this year. And then in the book sale today, they had, as far as I could see, only one other, one Orson Scott Card Ender book there, and it was the Last Shadow. Unfortunately, this is definitely a library copy here, and these stickers are probably not going anywhere. So, but again, it's $1, and it's a nice, good condition hardcover. So this will add to the Ender's saga that I apparently am going to be going on, thanks to the random reading pathway. So this says, one planet, three sapient species living peacefully together, and one deadly virus that could wipe out every world in the Starways Congress, killing billions. Is the only answer another great xenocide? We'll see. So here, if you can see it, this is the Ender's Saga. So in my last video, I showed that I picked up Ender's Game, Speaker for the Dead, Xenocide, and Children of the Mind, which are the first four. Down here, you could see Ender's Shadow, which I read separate from those. And now today, I just found The Last Shadow. So that leaves right here, missing from the bookshelf, which is Ender in Exile. So if I could find Ender in Exile, then I kind of have a pretty good handle on the Ender's saga. But again, I just posted a video talking about the Ender's books that I found, and I already had Ender's Shadow, and then The Last Shadow. There was no other Ender's book sitting there today. There was just this, and it was one of the few that, given the recent book hauls and my recent reading, I didn't have. So again, the random reading pathway sort of just like placed this in my hand and I went with it. That's kind of what I do and kind of what the idea of this channel is. So bear with me. I know it's sort of the ramblings of a little bit of a madman with some of what's going on internally here and how I pick books, but it's sort of what I set out to do with this channel. And then lastly, this one is a little bit of a less direct connection, but it still qualifies for sort of another coincidence that just seemed to naturally place it into the pathway and into my hand. So quite some time ago, I read a completely different book, Thomas Harris's Hannibal, which is one of the books in the Hannibal Lecter series that, you know, was the inspiration for the classic film Silence of the Lambs, and, you know, the character being Dr. Hannibal Lecter. So I read Hannibal. That's the only book in that series I've read, and that's one of those that I got from the library a long time ago. Definitely like it, and if I ever happen to see Hannibal in a book sale, I'm going to go ahead and grab it. I always look for it. I did that again today. Didn't find it. You might think what I'm about to say is that I'm going to show a different Thomas Harris book or a different Hannibal Lecter book. Not at all. Not at all. That's not what the random reading pathway does, because that would be sane and that would make sense. But what I did do instead is when I looked for Harris, I did not see Harris, but I saw Jonathan Harr, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, A Civil Action. Again, not to get repetitive here, but I do have a legal background, and I don't particularly like gravitate to reading legal books, but to the extent that they kind of pop up like this, you know, I definitely would be interested to check this out. It's a nonfiction account of an epic courtroom showdown that comes out of a water contamination incident in Massachusetts. And Jonathan Harr, I believe it looks like, did extensive 7 or 8 years of research on this disaster that took place and the ensuing legal trial that took place, and writes it up here in A Civil Action. You know, it's got some blurbs here: the legal thriller of the decade. It's a winner of the National Book Critics Circle Award for nonfiction. So yeah, I was looking for Harris, and one of these days I will find Hannibal by Thomas Harris, which I have read. This I haven't, but it's one of those I've mentioned on this channel where I'm looking for a title and my finger goes one spot over to the next, and it just went to Harr instead, and A Civil Action, which does fit into my reading interest. So I'll add this to the TBR. So that's it. 5 books today from an unexpected visit to yet another library book sale. Once the fall ends and these stop popping up on the calendar, I think I will actually truly stop adding to the TBR. But for now, it's just been a little too good to pass up with some of these choices. So I think that's it for the book haul. Thanks to anyone that tunes into this. And yeah, I have a couple books going right now that I'm hoping to finish and check in with some thoughts on soon. So thanks for anyone watching, and I'll be back soon.